Watching the last couple of days, LeBron goes on Pat McAfee. Stephen A spends, Kendrick Perkins and ESPN spends a lot of time yesterday, obviously reacting to that. And I'm asking myself, and it's interesting getting a lot of people's different perspectives, right? Some people are like, oh, Stephen A got demolished. He deserves it. I'm not even here for that argument. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that was most interesting to me, it's like, is this what people want? Because I'll tell you what ESPN's going to do. If it's getting clicks, they're probably going to keep feeding it. That's how they run their business. And their business comes down to, what do the numbers look like? We get numbers off of this, then screw promoting this game or that game. This is what people are interested in. And I paused here for a second. Somebody had a really good tweet yesterday, and somebody said, instead of talking about this, and it's, Stephen A doing his thing and Kendrick Perkins, they're all reacting. Windhorse was on there, all that reaction. This guy listed like 7-8 topics that they could have been talking about. And it was, something along the lines of Rockets having won 9 of 10. Are the Warriors a threat in the playoffs? Can Cleveland come out of the East? It was just like these thoughtful topics of this is what they could be talking about, but this is what they're talking about instead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a fantastic tweet. Here's the one problem with it. I think if you said which one's going to get more views, the one where they're going off about LeBron's interview with Pat McAfee is the one that's going to get more views. So in a sense, it's like the world that we're living in that you're talking about now, and it was Stephen A that was bringing up the reason why he doesn't like me is because I think Michael Jordan's the GOAT. I think he's the greatest of all time. The consumers will dictate what I think the media outlets will follow. And maybe that's not always the case because the media outlets also have an incredible amount of power that can sway what they want you to follow. But it's an interesting couple of days. And I think that comes to part of your point as well that you were trying to make of like, people watch the game for this. They're watching for people to lose rather than to win. It's different. It's not the same. It really isn't the same. And I think the way media is covering sports is not the same either.
Yeah, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not blaming this on fans for the way things are. Fans watch what fans watch, and then the numbers are what the numbers are, and it all kind of feeds into itself. But yeah, people.
I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it wasn't like that because I'm not. I think for me personally, a lot of these topics I don't give a shit about. I really don't.
Yeah.
Now, if it's Charles Barkley saying something about the Lakers aren't good, and here are my reasons why, and everybody wants to jump on Charles for that, I'm okay with that. Like to not think a team is going to work something like that. But a lot of this stuff has nothing to do with the game. It's just personal vendettas versus each other.
It's strange, and I don't look at things through the player first lens, and so there's a lot of people that are is it LeBron versus Steph, right? And people are trying to pump up the arguments for. I don't care. Could not care less about which player is better or which, is LeBron on the level of Jordan? Is this on this? Who cares? Like none of that matters to me. I'm looking at it from the team perspective, and look, be a fan however you want to be a fan. But again, the negative side of it is people want to fall into. Invariably, you wind up trying to support one player becomes a gateway to just being negative about everybody else in order to pump up that one player. But you're right. Look, media, it's going to depend on what gets the views. And what happens is somebody gives a very negative and very strong, right? You can't be reasonable about it. You can't give a very measured opinion on it. You can't say, well, these are the pros, these are the cons. You can't present both sides of an argument. You have to just present your thoughts, be as angry as possible when you do, be as outraged as possible because it's rage bait, right? When you do. A minute, 2 minutes or so. Stephen A obviously goes on a longer rant, but package that, put that out, and then everybody will respond. Everybody will respond in one way or another. They'll either be positive or they'll be negative, but either way, they're going to respond. And that's the important thing now. And I think we've lost something in all of that. And we've lost, I think, meaningful discussion and debate. I think we've lost some of the art of debate. I can't tell you how many times now I see people, especially on social media, that will respond to something in a negative way, but never actually present an opinion of their own. So they'll say, look, everybody look at this. Can you believe this guy said this? And then a bunch of just laughing, crying emojis, right? Without ever saying what they actually think. Like somebody says, hey, can you believe this guy did this thing? Without ever saying, hey, this is what I think should be done instead, without ever actually putting themselves out there and putting forth any kind of opinion of their own. And that's, I think, where we're kind of coming up short, is we're not furthering the conversation, not furthering the discussion of what it is that's happening. Instead, all we're doing is looking for things to point and laugh at.
You know, it's funny. I think there's and I don't mind. It's actually kind of interesting because now that you got a lot more players that have mics and podcasts, I like that a lot. I'm a fan of that. I want more of that because I like the player perspective. Or if LeBron felt like Stephen A. Smith said something that made it personal rather than about basketball, I'm okay with anybody that wants to defend themselves. They should defend themselves. But it's just an interesting couple of days of from a sports perspective, because so much of it had such little to do with sports. And
it shined a spotlight on kind of the way things are right now, what really works. And now we're starting to see those player hot takes. That stuff's now getting aggregated. And look, and I've had to do some of it before too, and it always feels kind of gross. You know, it's one thing if it's, player X says, they almost got traded back during this time. You're like, oh, I didn't know that. That provides context about, this thing that happened back then. And we didn't know this was going on. Does this change our perspective on things? Instead, now it's, player X cooked this guy or whatever. And that's what, people are responding to. It's just, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I will say that I have found myself leaning a lot more toward, like, I think I listen to a lot more podcasts of former players than I ever have, or current players, right? Yeah. Those that have podcasts that are talking, it's a unique perspective for me. I like kind of getting the unfiltered, maybe somebody that was on for an hour, 2 hours, rather than, it's a TV segment and I only get 15 seconds to talk on this topic and then we go to another one. So.
Yeah, you get much more in depth than, hey, I've got this much time and I gotta say something definitive on one side or the other that people are going to respond to. You get more real analysis for sure. All
right, thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.